Hello, I want to take this moment to talk about artificial intelligence, open source, and the state of information technology, computers, and software development. And so I mentioned in an earlier video that I was going to go into a little bit more detail. I know it's weird wearing a jacket in the middle of summer, but sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot, you just never know. But I've been dealing with information technology since the late 80s, early 90s, right? And I'm not quite 50 years old, but I'm almost there. I don't look it. I look around late 20s, early 30s, right? Vegetarian diet, vegan diet, good health practices. And part of that helps me stay young, both mentally and physically and energetically. But I just wanted to drop a comment on a more relaxed basis, right? So let's talk first about Chat-GPT. Let's talk about that, right? So there's a lot of buzz around Chat-GPT, and I think a lot of it's deserved, right? And I was having a very in-depth conversation with someone a couple of days ago about artificial intelligence. And one of the things that I came up with is that, and what I'm saying to you should not cast any aspersions on anyone or any group or any company or anything like that. I'm simply describing reality, right? The reality is that Microsoft has done a really great job running the business of Microsoft, right? And so when you see the different tools that Microsoft puts out, it's easy to get the sense that they are innovators. And to some extent that's true, but by and large, most of what we see that comes out of Microsoft, and this is my own opinion, not affiliated with anyone, but most of what we see come out of Microsoft is technologies that they bought from somebody else. And then their secret sauce is to make the technology more approachable to the general public and to businesses, right? And so they are engineers and they do engineer technology, software technology, but the majority of what they bring to the table is user interface, usability, and accessibility of information technology and software concepts, right? So that's to say that the real hardcore technology that we see in terms of the vast growth in information technology, the rise of Apple, the rise of Google, the rise of Amazon, the rise of Facebook, the rise of these major technological enterprises that provide tools like Android, iOS, that provide cloud and servers, right? Those come from hardcore engineering, right? And that type of scale to be able to have technology solutions that from a single organization that is able to accommodate billions of users every day, right? I'm talking about slamming Facebook.com, slamming Amazon.com, Google.com. Did you not know, if you don't know already, that Azure itself is based on Linux? So I'm just setting the ground for the broader discussion, right? So hardcore engineering is going to figure out how you can build a computer environment that can handle an increasing number of users. Now, inside of a corporation, right, inside the confines of a building, Microsoft technology has been designed for that, because you're talking about a max of 10,000, 100,000 people accessing servers. But when we jump to 100 million people accessing a server in an hour, or we're talking about 1 billion users accessing servers and computers, in a 24-hour period, we do see limitations in the Microsoft technology on that, right? We also see cost limitations as well in terms of how the licensing business works. But the way that relates to artificial intelligence is that OpenAI, which is the organization that produced Chat-GPT in the first place, they got their ideas and they got their mental structure for how to produce a quality artificial intelligence from a white paper and from a research study that Google did. Now, Google is not the best in the world in user interfaces and making the technology accessible to the general public to the level that Microsoft does. Okay? The people that put together Linux and Linux software, they're not a matchup to the brilliant people at Microsoft and Apple in putting together the way you click and the way you access from a touchscreen standpoint these technologies, the way that Microsoft and Apple can put them together in terms of how visual it is, how colorful it is, and how we can understand what we're seeing on the screens right in front of us. But in terms of actually making the technology work from ground zero, from scratch, Google, Apple, IBM, they're unbeatable when we're comparing them to the companies that are more well known in the imagination, in the public imagination, right? So the thing about that is that when you're placing bets or when you're looking where I'm looking to invest long term, I do study and stay up to date on Microsoft technology, but my long-term bet is on open source. Because when we use the word open source, this is what it means. It means that people with a PhD or master's degree in computer science and technology, or people that don't even have those college degrees, but they got 20, 30, 40, and 50 years of raw experience building solutions and making them work when no one else can make them work. You have a larger representation of those people in the open source world than you do in the world of corporations that hire people to build technology. And so there is a gray line overlap, right? When we're talking about Google, we're talking about Red Hat, we're talking about Canonical. There's a company named Canonical, right? We talk about some of these companies that they use open source technology as a feed into what they build and then sell to others, right? There's an overlap between them and these people that voluntarily put their best software code out there in the public domain for free. And what we find is, and not in every case, but over the course of history, that the people that are less limited by a deadline and they're less limited by corporate and business constraints on how they build technology, they put their best stuff out there. And when they can freely talk to other engineers and other scientists, right? So let's take Los Alamos Laboratory or Oak Ridge National Laboratories, federal laboratories. They got people on there. They're given a green light to take some of their research findings and put it into the public domain, as well as use public domain research, right? You got universities, and when I say university, I'm talking about almost all of them. Their computer science departments and their engineering departments, whether we're talking about electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, biomedical engineering, all the engineerings, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Just take all of those people in these universities. They got bachelor degree, master degree, and PhD degree students that number in the tens of thousands or more. And they're using open source technology all day long. That's your quiet army of people that outnumber the complement of people in corporations building this stuff, right? A lot of them, they're looking at security research, artificial intelligence research, server research, imaging, you name it. And some of them, they're doing their doctoral thesis and they're using open source technology. We talk about NASA. We talk about all of those folks. They are saying, okay, spectrometry, where you take imaging and you're able to analyze that imaging based on color values, right? To put it in simple terms. And based on color values and color spectrum, you're able to assess what is the possibility of life being on another planet, or what is the mineral makeup of a planet, moon, asteroid, or what have you, right? All of that code, a lot of that code, you're going to see them contribute that to open source. So to wrap this up, there's so much more contribution out there in the open source world where people have less limitations, that breakthroughs and innovations, they're happening every day and they're all over the place. And so through those inputs, long term, you're going to see a greater advance in artificial intelligence, in servers, and basic technology in the open source world. So that's how I see it at a fundamental level. And maybe at some point I'll speak a little bit more on this, but for now, that's kind of what my perspective is on that. And so AI is nothing to fear, and it's basically a set of tools now where, based on the level of intelligence that you have and the way that you understand information, you understand different processes, you can set up prompts that, allow you to achieve results that speed up your processes and speed up what you're able to achieve at a level that gives you greater productivity and allow you to get to where you want to be faster and with greater depth. So for every great product that you see that's a finished product, right, you're going to have 1,000 times results of that sort of thing in a raw form, in a embryonic form in the open source world. And so that is going to be like your leading indicator where everything is going. So I hope a lot of this made sense. A lot of this was coherent. There was no script to all of this, but this is kind of the information that's running through my mind, and I thought I would take a moment to share it with you. So thank you for listening, and I hope this finds you well. Thank you.